Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Wednesday, August 17th, 2022. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. If you're looking for my MLB best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Of course, I'm always running my $15 MLB best bet, so check it out at Pickdawgz Premium. And you can use the code AUG15, that's AUG15, to save 15% at checkout. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Wednesday, August 17th. First up, we see the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Cincinnati Reds. Ranger Suarez and Nick Lodolo are your projected starters, so two lefties going at it here. And when you look at the Cincinnati Reds, their offense hasn't done too much as of late. When you look at that series against the Cubs, they only had one game where they scored more than 2 runs, and that was when they're in their 8-5 win. But 2 runs apiece in each of the first 2 games of that series, including the Field of Dreams game. In that Mets series on the road, only a combined 5 runs in those 3 games. They scored 1, 2, and 2. Lost all those games pretty convincingly. So the offense has struggled mostly. And you look against left-handed pitching, that's definitely been the case in the last month. They're outside the top 15 in team OPS against lefties. They're outside the top 20 in isolated power in the last 30 days. So I do think Ranger Suarez is improving his game quite a bit. We look at his last start against the New York Mets. He was razor sharp. 7 innings, only 1 earned run against the New York Mets lineup that's been doing a great job against lefties as of late. So pretty impressive stuff there. In the last 5 starts that Suarez has had, he's given up 3 earned runs or less in all 5 of those starts and all 5 of those Phillies wins as well. I think Suarez keeps the Reds bats down to 2 runs or less. I think the bullpen doesn't give up more than a run as well. And I like the team total under here for the Cincinnati Reds, under 3.5 runs at home. In our next game, we see the Chicago Cubs taking on the Washington Nationals. Drew Smyly and Corey Abbott are your starters. Now, Corey Abbott's got a 5.94 ERA, but even worse FIP and XFIP numbers at 7.43 FIP and a 6.46 XFIP. He has 8.64 Ks per 9, which is not too bad, but the walks at 5.94 walks per 9 and 2.7 home runs per 9, giving up a ton of free passes and long balls, and that is scary here at Nationals Park. More of a hitter-friendly park, in my opinion. Drew Smyly on the other side, pitching pretty well for the Cubs this season, 3.69 ERA. The Nationals' numbers against lefties weren't too bad when Soto and Bell were part of the lineup, but since they've left, they are struggling more as a team. And you look at their strikeout rate against lefties in the past couple of weeks or so, it's been up there. Now they're 7th highest in the last 30 days, which this Nationals team wasn't really known for striking out too much, so that's surprising to see. And I think Smyly pitches well. His last 2 starts against some weaker lineups in the Marlins and Reds, but you could throw the Nationals probably in that crew as well. And his last 2 starts, shutout baseball in each of those outings. 6 2/3 innings of shutout ball against the Marlins, and then 5 innings, 9 strikeouts against the Reds, no earned runs in that game. Both Cubs wins pretty convincingly, both on the run line. I'm not going to take the run line here. I'm just going to take the Chicago Cubs on the money line. Pretty good price here we're getting on the road. Next up, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the Minnesota Twins. Daniel Lynch and Tyler Mahle are your projected starters. And I do think there's some value here with the underdog. The Royals haven't been playing too bad of baseball as of late, and we saw Daniel Lynch pitch really well against the Dodgers in his last start. 5 innings, no earned runs. Now, he did give up 4 walks, but still a very sharp outing to go 5 innings without giving up a run against the Dodgers. Very impressive. Now, the Minnesota Twins numbers against lefties haven't been too bad, about league average in the last 30 days or so. On the other side, Tyler Mahle, he struggled in his first start as a Twin against the Blue Jays, gave up 3 home runs and 4 earned runs. But his next start against the Angels, very sharp. 6 innings, no earned runs, 6 strikeouts. Kansas City Royals numbers offensively against righties, not as good as against lefties. So I do think this game is going to be lower scoring overall, but I think it's going to be a competitive low scoring game. Similar to what we saw in the first game of this series. The Twins did wind up covering that run line, but it wasn't easy. It was a 4-2 contest, and a ground ball with 1 out in the 9th inning that could have been beat out, but Carlos Correa had a rocket of an arm to stop the to earn the double play to end the game. But that was the difference between covering the run line as the dog and not. But I do think the Royals covered the run line here. I think it's going to be a 4-3, maybe 3-2 final score. Give me the under, and I lean towards the Royals on the run line. Next up, we see the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Ross Stripling and Austin Voth are your projected starters. Now, I've mentioned it quite a few times now. I do really like what I've seen from Austin Voth in the starting pitching role with his new team. Out of the bullpen, he really struggled at the start of the year, and that's why his ERA is where it is at 5.34. but as a starting pitcher for the Orioles, he's been sharp. I mean, you look at his last outing against the Tampa Bay Rays, 5 1/3 innings, 2 earned runs, 3 hits, 1 home run, 5 strikeouts. That's exactly what the Orioles would want from him. And the last 5 outings that Voth has had, the Orioles have won 4 of those 5 games, 3 of those against the Tampa Bay Rays. So Voth has pretty much dominated against the Rays this year. But in Toronto, it's going to be a tougher matchup. We know the Blue Jays lineup is a little bit stronger than Tampa Bay's this year, especially against right-handed pitching. But I still think Voth, his ability to strike out some batters, we've seen him at least 5 Ks in each of his last 3 starts. He doesn't pitch too deep into games, but the bullpen for the Orioles has been good this season. And on the other side, Ross Stripling doesn't pitch too deep into games himself. And the Blue Jays bullpen has been inconsistent at times this season. Even though they made a few moves at the deadline to bring in some help in that bullpen, I'm still not too trustworthy in it. And when you look at how well the Orioles have played as underdogs as of late, I think this is going to be a competitive game, and I think the Orioles may have a shot here. I'm going to take the Baltimore Orioles. They've been hitting righties well. I'm going to take them on the run line plus the 1.5 runs. In our next game, we see the Seattle Mariners taking on the Los Angeles Angels. No official lineup for this one, as the Angels have not announced a starter quite yet, but George Kirby should be going for the Mariners, and he has been very impressive in his last few outings. His last 5 starts, all strong outings, 2 earned runs or less in all of those. The strikeouts have been there for him. His last start against the Angels came on August 6th, so not too long ago. 6 innings, 1 earned run, and 8 strikeouts, and a 2-1 Mariners win. And the Mariners have won 4 of the last 5 starts that Kirby has made. The only loss was an extra innings loss, so not his fault, and that was against the Astros. And Kirby had 7 Ks in 4 innings in that one against a really good Astros lineup. So Kirby's pitching well, and he's been pitching even better on the road this year, surprisingly. The Mariners have a pretty good pitcher-friendly ballpark, but on the road, an ERA at 2.95 for Kirby this season, in about 36.2 innings pitched. I like Kirby here on the road. I think the Angels lineup just isn't strong enough, and I'm worried if they go with the bullpen game here. Don't really trust their bullpen, and I think the Mariners bats can get to them, especially getting their guys back in the lineup in Julio Rodriguez and Ty France. I'm going to take the Seattle Mariners here on the money line. Next up, we see Mike Clevenger and the San Diego Padres taking on Mr. Pablo Lopez and the Miami Marlins. And we're going to see a pretty low total here at 7, and we've seen totals like that for the Marlins for quite some time now, especially when they're playing at home, and especially when they have one of their stronger arms in the mound. But Pablo Lopez just hasn't been the same pitcher as of late. He struggled really much so against the Mets. 2 2/3 innings, 12 hits, 6 earned runs. Then he's followed that start up by giving up 4 earned, 9 hits, and a homer against the Chicago Cubs. And then his most recent start, it wasn't the worst start of the year for him. 5 2/3 innings, only 2 earned runs, but he only had 4 strikeouts against a Braves team that strikes out quite a bit against righties and lefties this season. He did give up another home run, and to me, he's just getting hit pretty hard as of late. And I could see a Padres lineup that's doing pretty well against right-handed pitching in the last month or so. They're actually in the top 5 in team OPS at 4th right now with a 796 team OPS. Isolated power numbers not as strong, but they are still right up there, ranked 5th. So they are hitting righties very well, and I think they could score a few runs on Pablo Lopez early on. But on the other side, Mike Clevenger, not my favorite option here on the mound for San Diego. His xFIP is above 4. We know if the Marlins are going to score runs, they're mostly going to do it against right-handed pitching. We saw that in the first game of this series when they got to Joe Musgrove for a few runs, and I could see a similar result here. It doesn't take a lot to get over a 7 total. If you get to a 3-3 game, you're guaranteed to at least push at 4-3, but I think this is going to be a 5-3 kind of game. I like the over 7 here. I think there's some value just because of how low that total is. Give me the over in this Padres-Marlins matchup. Next up, we see the Boston Red Sox taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, if I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Pirates, I'm going to want to take them when they're facing a lefty on the mound and when they're playing at home. They're only a few games under 500 at home. They have a far worse road record this year, and their numbers against lefties offensively aren't too bad. They're much better than against righties. They are facing Rich Hill here, a lefty on the mound for the Red Sox. JT Brubaker going for the Pirates, and Rich Hill has struggled recently. Look at his last 2 starts, his first 2 starts back from injury. 7 innings combined against the Astros and Braves, so some tough lineups, no doubt about that, but still 13 base hits, 8 earned runs, 2 home runs, and only 1 strikeout. He didn't have a single strikeout in his last start against the Braves, and like I just mentioned, the Braves strike out quite a bit against lefties and righties this season, so for Hill to not even miss any bats in that start, pretty concerning to me. The Pirates' numbers against lefties are much better than against righties, and JT Brubaker, I think, has been getting a little bit unlucky recently. His BABIP has been through the roof in his last few starts, but his most recent outing against a pretty good Diamondbacks lineup, in my opinion, he went 5 innings, 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, so pretty impressive there. I think he's good enough here for the Pirates. Getting to such a good price here on the plus money line. I think it's worth a shot to take Pittsburgh. I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Pirates here on the money line. Next up, we see the Tampa Bay Rays taking on the New York Yankees. We're going to see Mr. Domingo Germán on the mound for the Yankees. Corey Kluber going for the Rays. It's been tough to watch Yankees baseball as of late. They've had one of the worst records in the American League since the All-Star break. And when you look at what they've done against right-handed pitching, they are certainly struggling there. They got shut out on Sunday Night Baseball, and they followed that game up with another shutout in the first game of this series against the Rays in their bullpen game. So the offense, which I don't think anybody expected the Yankees would go in a slump offensively, but the offense just hasn't been there. The bullpen has struggled at times. We've seen guys like Clayton Holmes blow some saves more recently, especially after the All-Star break. So Yankees baseball, they're limping. They're definitely struggling, and it's tough to back them in this spot with Domingo Germán, who's got expected numbers that aren't good. I mean, you look at his ERA at 4.18, but you look at his expected ERA and his xFIP, they're much, much higher. And Corey Kluber, he has pitched well against the Yankees in the first two starts he's faced them in. And with the Yankees struggling so much against righties, I just don't think I can back him here, even at home. I'm going to lean towards the over in this game. I think there's going to be some runs scored by both teams, and then the Yankees offense wakes up a little bit. But I'm also going to take the Tampa Bay Rays here, I think, at a pretty good price. Until the Yankees show me something different right now, I'm going to have to fade him in this spot. Give me the Tampa Bay Rays here on the money line. In our next matchup, we see the Detroit Tigers taking on the Cleveland Guardians. And man, it seems like these two teams have played for 74 games in a row. But we're going to see Daniel Norris and Cal Quantrill on the mound here. And Daniel Norris was a pickup made by the Tigers at the trade deadline from the Chicago Cubs. And in his first start as a Tiger, he was sharp, 4 2/3 innings. I didn't expect him to go too deep into that game. He's been more of a reliever this season, but he went deep in that game and didn't give up a single earned run. He only had one strikeout, which is definitely concerning, but the White Sox do a pretty good job at limiting strikeouts. The Guardians do as well, but the Guardians struggle against left-handed pitching. In the last 30 days, the Guardians are ranked 20th in team OPS against lefties. Isolated power is ranked 26th. So if there was a game where the Tigers could keep the Guardians' bats down, I think this would be the game. And you look on the other side, Cal Quantrill's been super hard to read. I mean, inconsistent is an understatement. When you look at his start against the Red Sox back on July 27th, gave up 5 earned runs and 2 homers. He followed that start up with another poor outing, 4 earned runs and 2 homers against the D-backs. So now I'm expecting him to continue to regress. He's struggling. He's giving up home runs. And now, he's facing the Houston Astros and the Toronto Blue Jays in his next 2 starts. This isn't going to be good. He throws 13 innings of shutout baseball with 11 strikeouts. It's like, what the heck happened to Cal Quantrill? But he's been pitching well, and the Tigers, they're not hitting right into pitching well. So I'm going to take the under in this game. I think it's going to be a pretty low-scoring game in Cleveland. Next up, we see the New York Mets taking on the Atlanta Braves. Max Scherzer and Jake Odorizzi are your starters. I really just can't trust Jake Odorizzi in this spot, even though the Braves lineup has been impressive this series. Jake Odorizzi against the Mets only a few starts ago, back on August 6th, 4 2/3 innings to give up 6 hits, 3 total runs, 2 of those were earned, 3 walks as well, and only 4 strikeouts. He's only had 6 strikeouts in his last 8 2/3 innings, and to me, Jake Odorizzi is only going to have success when he's missing those bats, and the New York Mets do a great job at not only drawing a lot of pitches from starting pitchers and getting them out of the game early, but also earning some walks, getting hit by the pitch a ton, and not striking out a lot. And you look at the strikeout rate for the Mets in the last 30 days, it's been like this for most of the season, but they're the 5th lowest in baseball, 19.4%. So I do think Odorizzi struggles here. Max Scherzer struggling in his first few innings against the Phillies in that start last time out, but he definitely settled in that game, and he gave up 9 base hits, but had 6 strikeouts in 7 innings, only gave up 1 earned run and no home runs. And I think he'll pitch well here, well enough for the Mets to grab a win on the road. Not my favorite game on the board. I think this is a game I'd rather watch. Again, this series has been pretty fascinating, but I'm going to take the New York Mets here on the money line. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Germán Marquez and Jordan Montgomery are your starters. Now, in this one, I think it's going to be a really tough spot for Germán Marquez. He just faced this Cardinals lineup back in Coors Field in his most recent outing. You guys know that when I see a pitcher facing a lineup over and over again, especially back-to-back starts, I usually do give the advantage to the lineup, and especially a lineup like the St. Louis Cardinals, a lineup that doesn't strike out a lot. It's been good against lefties. It's been good against righties. Against righties in the last 30 days, an 802 team OPS in 623 plate appearances, so that's 3rd in baseball, 4th highest isolated power numbers. Germán Marquez, he was good enough last time against the Cardinals, but I don't think it's going to happen in this case. And on the road, he's had better numbers than at Coors Field, which is expected, as Coors Field is a hitter-friendly park. But the Cardinals, they are just a really tough team to beat, and especially with Jordan Montgomery going for him, who's been pitching lights-out baseball with his new team. I bet the Yankees are maybe rethinking what they did at the deadline. And I mean, Montgomery 11 innings pitched with his new team against the Yankees and Brewers. So a rivalry game with the Brewers and a big time game against his former club again in the Yankees. And he showed up, and the Cardinals won both of those games. He didn't give up a single earned run. He had 9 strikeouts combined. So he's been pitching well, and the Rockies' numbers against lefties on the road haven't been the strongest lately. They're 20th in team OPS, 16th in isolated power in the last month. So I think the Cardinals win this game going away. Give me St. Louis on the run line. In our next game, we see the Texas Rangers hosting the Oakland Athletics. And forgive me, my voice is going out a little bit as we continue the rundown. But Cole Ragans and Adam Oller are your projected starters for this one. And the Texas Rangers are big-time favorites here. I'm seeing some minus 190s out there for Texas. And, I understand that the A's have not hit lefties very well. I would say the Rangers are the better team. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Texas win this game. But just based on value, I cannot price Cole Ragans at minus 190 after what you saw in his last start. Now, I know it was against the Houston Astros, but 4 1/3 innings, 6 hits, 5 earned runs. He had 3 walks allowed, 2 home runs. He only had 1 strikeout. So that makes it only 4 strikeouts in his first 9 1/3 innings at the big league level. And he was a guy that was missing a lot of bats in minor league play. So if he's not earning those strikeouts, he's got a 7-4 walk to strikeout ratio so far. That's not going to get it done. We saw the long ball issue in the most recent outing. That's not going to get it done. I think the Oakland A's are good enough here to compete in this game. Adam Oller, not my favorite starting pitcher to back. That is for sure. But I think, he's been pitching a lot better recently than he was at the beginning of the season. His last start against the Astros, he only gave up 2 earned runs in 4 2/3 innings. They'll take that all day long. If we can get that here from Oller, I think the Athletics compete in this game. Maybe even have a chance to win it outright. But I'm going to take the plus 1.5 runs here with the Oakland A's on the road. It's White Sox Astros here at Guaranteed Rate Field. In Chicago, we're going to see Framber Valdez and Michael Kopech as the starters. And in recent seasons, and even the beginning of this year, the White Sox were hitting left-handed pitching very well. But when you look at the last 30 days, they're ranked 27th in isolated power against lefties, 22nd in team OPS against lefties. And Framber Valdez, he is on some kind of streak right now. I believe 19 straight quality starts from Framber Valdez. A 2.21 ERA on the road, so even better numbers away from home this year with a 7-2 record, 66 strikeouts. He coming off another great start against the Texas Rangers. We went 7 innings of shutout ball against a Rangers team that can hit lefties pretty well. 8 strikeouts, no earned runs, and the Astros have won the last 3 of the last 4 starts that Valdez has pitched in, and those are all 3 run line covers. We don't even have to lay the run line here. I'm just going to take Houston on the money line. I know they haven't been great against righties, and they're going to be facing a righty in Michael Kopech, but they don't strike out a ton at the plate. They do get on base quite a bit via the walk, and Michael Kopech's had issues with the walks here and there. He did have a good start against the Detroit Tigers last time out, but he's not facing the Tigers here. I think the Astros score the runs needed for Framber to just give him 6-7 sharp innings. I like the Astros here on the money line. Next up, we see a game on national TV, the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Milwaukee Brewers with Tony Gonsolin and Eric Lauer as the starting pitchers. Now, this is a pretty good pitching matchup on paper with Eric Lauer at 3.64 ERA, Gonsolin 2.24. Gonsolin was an all-star for the National League, but I actually like the over in this game. We know both of these lineups can definitely do some damage, especially the Los Angeles Dodgers, and they're facing a lefty, which at the beginning of the year, I wouldn't love the Dodgers against the lefty, but I do now. At 874 team OPS in the last month and 277 plate appearances for Los Angeles, and they're number 3 in isolated power, so one of the top lineups in baseball against lefties recently. And Eric Lauer, he's a power pitcher, so he's going to earn some strikeouts, but the LA Dodgers do a great job at limiting strikeouts at the plate against lefties, against righties this season. And Lauer also has an issue with the home run ball. He's given up 22 home runs this season in 118.2 innings pitched, including 2 homers in his most recent start against the Cardinals. I think the Dodgers can find some runs on Lauer early on, but I also think the Brewers show up here offensively. Tony Gonsolin, he's had mixed results here after the All-Star break. He's had a few sharp starts. His last outing against the Royals was pretty good, 6 2/3 innings, 1 earned run, but the strikeout numbers are down for him. He's given up some more home runs recently. The walks are also starting to show up, and the Brewers have been great against right-handed pitching at home and overall in the last 30 days. They're right behind the Dodgers in team OPS and isolated power against righties in the last 30 days. So I think the Brewers show up here offensively. I think both teams do. I like the over in this Dodgers-Brewers matchup. And in our final game of the night, we see the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the San Francisco Giants. We see Zach Davies and Carlos Rodon on the mound for this contest. Now, the Giants' numbers against lefties in the last month or so, 11th in team OPS, isolated power 10th, so pretty strong numbers for the Giants despite their struggles, but against righties hasn't been the case. They have improved in the last week or so, but 20th in team OPS and 20th in isolated power. And Zach Davies pitched well in his last outing. He faced the Rockies back-to-back starts, which was, it's not an easy thing to do to face the same team twice, like I mentioned. And he had to pitch one of those starts in Coors Field. But in 10 innings combined against the Rockies in those 2 starts, he only gave up 3 earned runs. He had 5 strikeouts. I'd like to see the strikeout number rise, but he did a pretty good job at keeping the ball on the ground. He only gave up 1 home run in those 2 starts combined, and I think he'll be good enough here to keep the Giants' bats down, at least enough for the D-backs to cover this game on the run line, as they're going to be facing Carlos Rodon, who is obviously having a good year overall, but as of late, we've seen him give up some more home runs, and that includes a start back on July 26th against these D-backs. He had 10 strikeouts through 6 innings pitched, but he gave up 5 earned runs and 2 home runs against a pretty good, powerful Diamondbacks lineup. They've been sometimes home run dependent this year, and against lefties in the last month, they've actually had pretty good numbers. The Diamondbacks 13th, so inside the top 15 against lefties in isolated power, also inside the top 15 in team OPS against lefties. So they may only need a few runs against Carlos Rodon to catch a cover here on the run line. They're big time underdogs in this spot, but I actually like the D-backs here plus the 1.5 on the run line, and I lean towards the under in this game as well. And that's it. Those are the games for Wednesday, August 17th. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.